All right, guys, welcome back to TFD. Today, we need to talk about the Indiana Fever salary situation because some new numbers are starting to come out, and it's creating a lot of debate among the fan base. We now have a clearer idea of what Caitlin Clark is expected to earn, and we also have a rough picture of what Aaliyah Boston's contract situation could look like moving forward. But the big question everyone keeps asking is about Kelsey Mitchell. What exactly is she going to get paid? And more importantly, can Indiana realistically afford to keep this entire core together? And honestly, when you look at the financial structure of this team, things start to get complicated pretty damn quickly. I've already started seeing Fever fans arguing back and forth online. Some people believe the team will somehow keep Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hall, and Sophie Cunningham all together long-term. But when you really break down the numbers, that scenario becomes very difficult to pull off. For that to happen, certain players would likely have to accept significantly smaller deals. For example, Sophie Cunningham would probably have to agree to something close to a league minimum type contract, somewhere around the $300,000 range. And realistically, it's hard as hell to imagine that happening. Then you have Lexi Hall, who could quietly become one of the most interesting pieces in this situation. There's a real possibility that another team offers her somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000, which would make things even more complicated for the Indiana Fever front office. And despite any salary bump Caitlin Clark receives, the reality is she will still be massively underpaid compared to the value she brings to the league. So in this video, we're going to break down two major things: the potential expansion draft decisions for the Indiana Fever and the growing conversation around the WNBA's upcoming Supermax contracts. So over on ESPN, it says this WNBA collective bargaining agreement will fast-track the ability for players on a rookie-scale contract to make maximum and supermax salaries. Sources told ESPN the new provision, called EPIC, Exceptional Performance on Initial Contract, allows players to renegotiate their 4-year salary and earn the standard max that year if they were previously all WNBA first team or second team, or the Supermax if they won the MVP. For example, 2024 Rookie of the Year Caitlin Clark, who made $78,066 in 2025, is poised to see her salary jump to $530,000 in 2026. So this year, she is about to jump to that salary. Okay, now the other part, the new provision would also apply to younger stars such as Aaliyah Boston, who is max eligible in 2026, and Paige Beckers, who is max eligible in 2028 because she made the All-WNBA team. All right, now there it is. On Yahoo Sports, you see it right there. Caitlin Clark's Supermax in 2028, by the way, would be $1.7 million. That's what she would end up jumping up to.
All right, guys, let's really break this down because the Indiana Fever are about to face some huge decisions, especially when it comes to the expansion draft and the salary situation surrounding this roster. A lot of fans are debating who should stay, who should go, and what direction the team should take moving forward. So let's go through it step by step. First things first, the easiest decision on the board is protecting Caitlin Clark. That one isn't even a discussion. If you're the Indiana Fever front office, she's the first name you write down on the protected list without hesitation. We're talking about a player who made the WNBA All-WNBA team as a rookie and was already in the MVP conversation during her first season. That's not normal. That's generational talent territory.
Beyond the statistics, she's also the engine that drives everything for this franchise right now. The offense runs through her, the pace runs through her, the fan interest, the ticket sales, the TV ratings, everything skyrocketed once she arrived. So protecting Caitlin Clark isn't just about basketball, it's about protecting the damn future of the entire organization. Next up is Kelsey Mitchell. Now, this is where some fans start to disagree, but from a team-building perspective, it still makes sense to protect her. Even if some people believe Indiana should eventually move on or consider trading her, you absolutely cannot allow a player of her caliber to leave for nothing in an expansion draft. Mitchell still has serious value around the league. She's one of the most explosive scorers in the WNBA, and we've already seen flashes of how dangerous the backcourt pairing between her and Caitlin Clark can be. During stretches of Clark's rookie season, those two looked like one of the most dynamic guard combinations in the league. Their skill sets actually complement each other pretty well. Clark is the elite playmaker and deep shooter who stretches defenses, while Mitchell is a pure scorer who can attack off the ball and create her own shot. When they're both clicking, defenses have a damn nightmare trying to guard them. Then we move to Aaliyah Boston, and this is another automatic protection. Boston is the cornerstone of the front court and one of the most important pieces of the team's long-term future. What makes the Clark-Boston pairing so exciting is the potential of their pick-and-roll game. When you combine Clark's elite passing and vision with Boston's strength, footwork, and scoring ability in the paint, you're looking at a duo that could dominate the league for years. And Boston's game is still evolving. We've already seen improvements in her ability to stretch the floor, hit mid-range shots, and command attention from defenses. If she continues developing that outside touch while still controlling the paint, she becomes even more dangerous. Now things start getting a little more complicated when we talk about Lexi Hull. In my opinion, she absolutely needs to be protected. Hull may not always put up massive scoring numbers, but she does the kind of gritty work that winning teams rely on. She's the type of player who dives for loose balls, grabs those tough rebounds, and creates extra possessions through hustle. Those are the 50-50 plays that decide games. Defensively, she's also incredibly reliable. Even when her offense goes cold, her defense and effort rarely disappear. That kind of consistency is valuable when you're building a playoff-level roster around stars like Clark and Boston.
Next, we get to Sophie Cunningham, and this is another player I would absolutely protect. Cunningham had arguably one of the best seasons of her career recently. Her three-point shooting was elite, hovering around the 40% range, and she brought a level of toughness and defensive intensity that the Fever really benefited from. But there's another element she brings that sometimes gets overlooked. She plays the role of enforcer. Every team needs someone willing to stand up for their teammates, especially when that teammate happens to be a superstar like Caitlin Clark, who draws a lot of physical attention. Cunningham isn't afraid to step in and make it known that her teammates aren't going to be pushed around. That mentality matters in a league where rivalries and physical play can get heated. Now, when it comes to other players on the roster, this is where the team might have to take some calculated risks. Veterans like Natasha Howard have had strong moments and contributed during the season, but protecting everyone simply isn't possible. Howard did have stretches where she played a big role for the team, and some fans even talked about her as a potential WNBA Commissioner's Cup MVP candidate during parts of the year. Another interesting situation to monitor involves Lexi Hull's contract status as a restricted free agent. That means she'll have the ability to test the market and see what other teams are willing to offer. If another franchise throws a big contract at her, maybe somewhere in the $600,000 to $700,000 range, the Indiana Fever would have to decide whether they want to match that offer. Looking beyond the current roster, Indiana could also explore adding players in free agency who fit well alongside Clark and Boston. One name that fits that description is Alana Smith. She brings size, shooting ability, and defensive versatility. Another intriguing option could be Azara Stevens, who offers similar versatility with the ability to defend and space the floor. Finally, we need to talk about the growing conversation around the WNBA's future Supermax contracts. There's been a lot of excitement about players earning significantly larger salaries, which is great for the league. But at the same time, the Supermax can't just be thrown around like candy. Historically, only a small number of players have reached that level of pay. Last season, only a handful of stars were making top-tier contracts, including players like Kelsey Mitchell and Jewel Lloyd. More realistically, we may see top stars landing somewhere between $850,000 and $1.2 million, depending on the new salary structure. There will always be exceptions, of course. Players like A'ja Wilson have clearly earned the right to command the very top tier of salaries because of their dominance and impact. But overall, the Fever's main focus should remain on building the right roster around Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. If they manage the expansion draft correctly, protect the right players, and make smart free agency additions, the Indiana Fever could be positioning itself not just for playoff appearances, but for legitimate championship contention in the coming years.
All right, guys. So guys, today my voice I not good because my voice recorder mic not working. So this part of the conversation might make some people upset, but it's the reality the Indiana Fever front office is going to have to deal with. The big question now is simple. How deep do you want this roster to be? Because when you start looking at the salary numbers that are coming out, things get complicated real damn quickly. Take Kelsey Mitchell, for example. She's a pending free agent, and she's coming off a huge season where she made the All-WNBA first team and holds the Fever's single-season points per game record. Because of that, she's now eligible for a Supermax contract that could be worth around $1.4 million per year. Now, just a few weeks ago, most people assumed something very different. The assumption was that Mitchell might land somewhere around $1 million, maybe $1.1 million, while Caitlin Clark would still be sitting much lower because of her rookie contract structure. But the landscape is shifting fast. Aaliyah Boston is going to see her salary rise significantly, and Clark's new numbers are expected to jump as well, reportedly up to around $530,000. And yes, realistically speaking, Clark probably deserves way more than that, considering the insane value she brings to the WNBA, but that's a whole different damn conversation. The real issue is the salary cap. If the cap sits around $7 million, things get tight real fast. Just Mitchell and Boston together could take up roughly $2.5 million. Add Clark, and suddenly you're already past $3 million. Now you still need 7 or 8 more players on the roster with only about $4 million left to work with. With minimum salaries reportedly around $300,000, that money disappears fast. So the Indiana Fever front office has a tough decision to make. If Mitchell signs for $1.4 million, that's essentially the equivalent of paying 2 solid $700,000 players. That's the kind of brutal math teams have to consider when building a balanced roster. And then there's another factor: competition from other teams. What happens if Indiana offers Mitchell $1.1 million and another team swoops in with a bigger damn deal? That's where things could get really interesting this offseason. So now tell me what you think. Don't forget, like and subscribe.